happened in there today?
Well, something very unique happened in there. We had 5 new members in the basin, but we had all 14 members bipartisan to follow the Missouri River mainstream reservoir system all the way from Fort Peck all the way down here to Gavin's Point, and then we get to Nebraska and Kansas. The good news is that the level of flooding is coming down. The bad news is it's going to be with us through August probably. The big question is that snowcap's really not melting much, although it's melted a great deal. So what happens if that stays there and you have another plain snowpack, and then I'm not expecting that kind of rainfall, but you never know. We may be in a different kind of period. So we have a bill to make sure that the Corps takes that into consideration in regards to rainfall snowpack 2010, 2011. And if we do that, I think that we could get to a situation where if the similar situation did develop, why then you could have much more early releases. Other questions that were dealt with were really FEMA and flood control and flood insurance. On the flood insurance, it's being advertised at 30 days, but when you really sign up, you better have 60 days to do the paperwork. That's not right. Several senators have legislation on that. Let me just point out that we're trying to point the obvious. Flood control is the #1 thing that we need to be doing. If you have a flood like we have of historic proportions, you're not going to have any navigation, you're not going to have any hydropower, you're sure going to have irrigation, but it isn't the kind that you want. And then in terms of water supply, we obviously have that. But all of these things have to be considered in a 432 manual, the master manual. We want to make sure that this flood control comes in #1, especially with what has happened in the last 2 years and could happen in a 3rd year. But the fact that we have 14 senators in there, both parties, really working on this, that is unique. Usually when something happens, if you have a drought or if you have a flood, we have, say, competing interests. We're all working together. Thank you.
We have flooding on a regular basis in Missouri, but this has been brutal. This year has been brutal in Missouri in many ways. Between tornadoes, we have southeast Missouri flooding, and now we've got northwest Missouri flooding. We have both Mississippi and Missouri that have done us dirty this year, and we want to make sure that the Corps is accountable for this.
Claire and I have talked about this. John Homer and I were talking about it, and really, I think the reason to get this group together is that this is a year when everybody is facing similar problems. I think it's maybe the first year that every single state on the rivers had flooding, and to look at that, and as Claire said, that we just go through an unusually dry period, and now we're in a series of years that are going to get information at the same time, and to try to have a real dialogue that doesn't automatically get into the kind of discussions that have often characterized what happens with the Missouri River. But it looks like we'll find out more when the Corps gets here. The last report I had from the Corps about our river, about the Missouri part of the river, was that we have the river flood stage maybe into September and maybe well into September. And I don't remember any time we would have thought that August and September would be flooding months. And so what's so out of character here, in addition to the